Welcome to my breakdown session. In this video I'm going to be exploring the Frog Galliard by John Dowland. To do this I'm going to delve into the historical context, compare facsimile editions and talk about the right hand lute technique. So stick with me and please subscribe to Luteweb to support this video. Putting this video together has given me a renewed respect for this spirited tune. I'm going to try to peel back a few layers and give you an insight into my thoughts as to how I gather information needed when preparing a piece. First, I always try to get the sense of the context. The earliest documented evidence of this tune as a lute solo can be found in the first book of the Matthew Holmes manuscript collection dated from the mid-1580s. These books are a magnificent celebration of the repertoire of the solo lute, contributing to a good percentage of what we know of as lute music in the Golden Age. The melody of the Frog Galliard was very popular in its day, and it was still in circulation right up to the mid-18th century. It even entered into the broadside ballad legacy and can be found in the song collections of archivists such as John Bagford and Samuel Pepys. As a later ballad song, the tune of the Frog Galliard adapted well to the traditional iambic metre of the broadside, and one of the best examples of this is a song called The Shepherd's Delight from the Roxburghe ballad collection.
On yonder hill there springs a flower, fair before the dainty sweet, and by that flower there stands a bar, where all the homely muses meet, and in that bar there stands a chair, fringed all about with gold, and therein sits the fairest fair that ever did mine eyes behold.
There are alternative versions of the Frog Galliard for keyboard, cittern and other instruments, and it's evident as you root around a little that this was indeed a very popular song. John Dowland also made the tune well known in the form of a lute song. This is found in his first book of airs, published in 1597, called Now, Oh Now, I Needs Must Part. It's set for 4 vocal parts, soprano, alto, tenor and bass, with a lute accompaniment. It can also be sung as a vocal solo.
Oh, now I needs must part, parting though I absent mourn. Absence can no joy impart, joy once fled cannot return.
The text to this song perhaps gives us a clue as to the purpose of the title of the lute solo. Many folks wonder at the frog bit of the Galliard. Historians have linked the poetry of Dowland's song to the Duke of Anjou, whose father was Henry II of France, his mother Catherine de' Medici. The link comes in the form of a marriage alliance between Francis, the Duke, and Queen Elizabeth I. A negotiation was underway working towards this alliance in 1579. She was roughly 22 years his senior, and by all accounts she was fond of him, and if the link is applied to the poetry of Dowland's song version, the Duke was very fond of the Queen.
While I live, I needs must love. Love lives not when hope is gone. Now at last despair doth prove, love divided loveth none.
Some say the Queen called the Duke her frog. Some say it was because the Duke looked like a frog. Others say it's because it was thought he had given her a frog-shaped earring. Are these viable explanations as to the title? Or maybe it's none of the above. There's also an argument to say that the frog bit is just a reference to France. We know that Dowland spent some time in France in his youth from the age of 17, between 1580 to 1586. And so is this what we have here? A simple French Galliard that later got used as a song setting? If we do go down the road of associating Dowland's song version with Francis d'Anjou, it's worth knowing a little more context. There was a strong political opposition to this potential marriage alliance between the Duke and Elizabeth I, and this resulted in the Duke's departure from the English court in 1581. A line from the poetry fits this perfectly. Sad despair doth drive me hence. I'm not sure how much myth is intermingled into fact about this one. I'm certainly no historical expert, and if you'd like to send me your thoughts, drop them in the comments box below.
Sad despair doth drive me hence, this despair unkindness sends. If that parting be offence, it is she that then offends.
There are two lute solo versions of the Frog Galliard found in the first book of 4 volumes by the Matthew Holmes collection. This first book was probably copied between 1588 and 1595. It's worth noting the first example of this piece in the Matthew Holmes book has no title and no authorship, and the second version only has the title. This could suggest the piece was in its evolutionary stage of development at this point in time. Here's a version that occurs first in the manuscript, Folio 40. Here we have a simple ABA musical form with no divisions. The harmonic structure is simple and yet has enough interest to be delightful. The interest, I think, comes from the subtle harmonic shifts in the ascending bass line just before the cadence in each of the 8-bar phrases in the A section. Shifting from the tonic key of G major to that of the subdominant C major in the B section gives the listener enough contrast to the new material to create interest. It's followed by a wonderful and wholesome recapitulation of the tune, completing the beautiful simplicity of this little composition. It is, in fact, just a simple pop tune, in structure, in style, with just enough complexity for it to be catchy and memorable.
It was fair and bright, and the shepherds only joy. She whom Venus most did smite, and the blinded little boy.
I'd like to move on and talk about a few technical aspects to do with approaching this piece on the lute. But before I do, I have to decide which edition or version I want to work from. The second version in the Holmes manuscript is more substantial with added divisions, and the title is actually indicated here. I like the second division in this particular version. In total, there are around 6 versions of the frog Galliard in this time period. 2 have already been mentioned. A third version can be found in the Cousins Lute book dated around 1610. 2 other sources are found in European manuscripts, but in this case there is only one version we can be sure that Dowland composed, as it's authenticated by his own hand. This version is found in the Folio Dowland Lute book, named after its resting place, the Folio Dowland Library in Washington, D.C. It's the Folio Dowland version that I would like to focus on. This is written for 7-course lute, whereas the other 2 versions I mentioned are for 6-course. Before I go further into detail, I'd just like to outline the structure of this version. This is an expanded rendition of the first unattributed Galliard played earlier in the Matthew Holmes book. It's still in ABA basic ternary form, but with variants. The A section starts the main theme. This comes in 2 8-bar phrases. After this, a variation of the main melody is developed. Then comes a variant of the second 8-bar strain composed in triplets. So after the triplets, we have the B section, composed of 8 bars of new material. Returning to the second phrase of the main A theme. Finally, this is followed by variations on the B and A themes just heard. Right. So I'm going to get a little bit techie about the spirited triplet section that sets this version apart from other examples. These 8 bars are completely unique to this record of the Frog Galliard. The characterful triplets are not found in any of the other 5 examples I've outlined. On the right hand. We don't know much about the Folio manuscript. Its dates of creation are between 1590 to 1610. We do know that Dowland handled this book and signed it several times, so given that this piece has his signature, I'm going to assume he approved of the technical markings, which are detailed, numerous and interesting. There are very clear markings for the right hand in the first bar of the triplet section, We have after the two-part chord the use of index and middle finger for the ascending scale of the first figure. The pattern is continued for the next triplet, with the thumb travelling from the sixth course on the G to the top fourth string 2 octaves higher. Let's just put that together. This creates variety and interest, and the effect is a lovely lilting phrase. To me, this indicates a very specific hierarchical order when weighting the notes. The line becomes more dimensional, with notes in the foreground, middle ground and background. Let's just hear the effect with the use of P and I. It still has rhythmical energy, but the emphasis falls on different aspects of the triplet figure. I don't think this is wrong, and at the end of the day, as with everything, it's up to you to decide how you want to communicate a phrase.
I would just like to expand on this point about deciding what you want to communicate to your audience. This is the very essence of every musical action and decision I make when I'm preparing a piece or just playing for my own solace. To help me explain, I'm going to draw on the wonderful and revealing writings of Judy Tarling, who has written some fantastic articles for the Lute Society here in the UK and has published an incredible book called The Weapons of Rhetoric.
One of her contributions for the Lute Society, found in Lute News, number 56, she writes a piece titled Classical Rhetoric in the Renaissance. She delves into the links between the ancient writers such as Aristotle, Cicero and Quintilian, and the importance their treatises had on influencing Renaissance thinkers, musicians, scientists, and many other areas such as medicine, farming, architecture, all of which draw on this idea of power found in art of expression and communication. On music, she writes, it was regarded as being a vital vibration which joined the cosmos to the earth. I just love this. The ancient classical writers played a huge part in the shaping of the Renaissance, and by the late 15th century, music was seen as a powerful form of expression, able to move the soul. Back to getting a little nerdy about lute technique. Nigel North discusses Dowland's use of the right hand in his fab article titled Searching for Dowland, where lute technique is clearly evolving as the instrument itself develops from 6-course to 9-course during Dowland's lifetime and eventually forming what we know as the 13-course Baroque lute. It's worth noting the 7-course lute was probably the most used by Dowland. With this development came a shift in the thumb position from inside the hand to outside, a style more familiar to classical guitar players. As chordal ranges on the lute become larger with the increasing addition of diapason strings, so it became more common to use I and M fingers rather than P and I, with a thumb inside style, which was very much a residue of the way the medieval plectrum lute was played. This explains these very detailed markings in the triplet section seen in the Folio example. The shifting sands of the expanding range of the instrument leads to adaptations in the way the phrase can be played and in turn change articulation to bring out dimensions to delight the listener. Let's look a little closer in the third bar of the triplet section. This is very subtle, but it makes a difference. The first and the third triplet figures use I and M. The second triplet figure uses P and I. The next 3 bars follow this pattern, and you can hear how it just adds a lovely rhythmic diversity to the line. The penultimate bar has this incredible mix of both styles, which I just find delightful. Don't forget about your bass line while you focus on the triplets. The bass must feel connected. That strong chordal progression bolts everything together. Let's look at the division of the B section in this version. It's evident here that Dowland slips into the right hand thumb inside technique, and it's very clearly indicated in the part. The thumb is everything in lute playing. It helps just to lift rhythmical energy and allows differentiation between strong and weak beats. But here's the thing. In the 3rd bar of the B division, the stretch firmly places the thumb on the 6th chords with the use of M. Of course, it can be played with P&I, but here we have a clear example of Dowland implementing a new style of playing, mixing the old and the new. The final division of the main melody follows a consistent pattern where it is indicated that the bass must be sustained. The long strokes where the bass note is fretted is a sign for this. Obviously, this is not written where the open string is indicated, as the note will automatically ring on. So you have this brilliant sense of the melody underpinned by the bass line. This piece embodies both right-hand styles of P and I and M. The divisions sit beautifully using the thumb inside technique. While the triplet section just slips gently into a lilting 3 using I and M. Touching on Judy Tarling's train of thought once again, it's always worth pondering what you want to communicate to your audience when you are shaping a piece of music. Once you've mastered the technical tools and have flexibility within your playing to create variety and interest, then you have a rainbow of colours and effects you can use to charm your listeners. I'd love to hear your comments. I will reply to each and every one of you. If you missed my first breakdown session on Dowland's Lachrimae for Pavan, a live link is available in the description box below. Links to the full versions of the songs and solos used in this video are also available alongside a link to Judy Tarling's book. My thanks to Hannah Grove for her fabulous singing. You can check out more of our videos on our Amarylli YouTube channel. I'd just like to say a special thank you to supporters of Luteweb. I couldn't make these videos without you. If you have found this breakdown session interesting, please subscribe to Luteweb. It really helps to support this small channel in the ocean of stuff when surfing YouTube. It would be wonderful if you'd consider making a donation to Luteweb via Ko-fi. You can access my support page in the description box below. Every little helps to keep the videos flowing. Thank you for listening, and happy lute playing.